He was the defining figure of South Africa's struggle and an inspiration around the world. In Nelson Mandela, we saw the triumph of the human spirit, proof that reconciliation could drive a revolution and that one man could change things.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
This was the South Africa of Mandela's youth. The system of apartheid formalised racial discrimination, making the majority black population second-class citizens. Nelson Mandela became a lawyer and urged peaceful protest against the white government. This was the response. In 1960, police opened fire on black demonstrators at Sharpeville, killing 69 unarmed people, convincing Mandela that it was time to fight.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks.
He soon started organising acts of sabotage as the leader of the military wing of the ANC. He became enemy number one, the Black Pimpernel, evading the authorities. But in 1962, he was caught. This image of him, draped in tribal skins and in custody, was to be the world's last glimpse of him as a young man. He was sentenced to life and jailed on Robben Island off the coast of Cape Town. He'd later return as a free man to the place where his youth had slipped away.
I didn't notice that it was so small, you know, because you had your bed here, and as I say, it was almost a little, about 3/4 big in relation to this.
Through small acts of defiance, Mandela the prisoner kept up the struggle inside Robben Island, whilst outside, the battle against apartheid was gaining ground. Through the 70s and 80s, violence exploded. The world watched the brutality with growing horror, and Nelson Mandela, still locked away, became the face of the international anti-apartheid cause. For the crumbling apartheid regime, talking to Mandela was the only solution, and he was moved to Victor Verster prison for the secret negotiations that would ultimately lead to his release. On February the 11th, 1990, Nelson Mandela walked to freedom after 27 years. This was the beginning of the end of apartheid, and the whole nation was relying on Mandela's leadership to avoid bloodshed, South Africans black and white.
He went to jail as a fairly young, angry person, and remember, he was the head of the armed section of the ANC, and he needed that time in prison to mellow.
The transition to democracy was turbulent and sometimes violent, but Mandela reached out to his former enemies to make a deal.
We were sparring, we were trying to give a knockout to the other one party, politically speaking, and at the end he took my hand and said, we need to work together.
In 1994, South Africa went to the polls in its first free elections, a tribute to Mandela, who'd steered his country away from the bloody revolution that so many had feared.
Help me God. So help me God.
The prisoner became president, and the miracle of the Rainbow Nation was embraced by the world. The following year, in what's gone down as one of the key moments of the post-apartheid era, Nelson Mandela wore a Springbok rugby jersey at the final of the Rugby World Cup, which South Africa went on to win.
Number 6 hands it to number 6.
As predominantly the sport of the white population, Mandela once again showed how in a simple act, seen by millions around the world, he could bring the two sides of the population together. It had such an impact, the moment was later made into a film. Mandela was so famous that it was hard to separate the myth from the man. A father who missed his children growing up and whose marriage to the increasingly controversial Winnie had fallen apart.
Yeah? Oh.
He did find love again, marrying Graça Machel, who'd be by his side throughout his later years. His life was defined by public triumph and personal tragedy. His appearance at the World Cup final in Johannesburg should have been a moment to revel in all of his achievements, but Mandela was in mourning for his great-granddaughter, killed in a car crash just weeks before. Even as he aged, he remained the moral compass for South Africa, an example for his successors to aspire to, a reassuring presence as the country grappled with the challenges of the post-apartheid years. His health deteriorated in the last few years, and a public which didn't want to let him go suffered with him whenever illness forced him into hospital. The tuberculosis he first endured in prison appeared to have weakened the old warrior, and the repeated lung infections only served to remind his fans of his considerable physical sacrifice. In his final years, this his 94th birthday, he retreated to his childhood home in the Eastern Cape and the embrace of his extended family. He was mostly out of sight, although continued to make exceptions to feed a public who hungered for news about him. To the end, he was always happiest, surrounded by children, a succession of new generations, born free because of him. After a lifetime of struggle, Nelson Mandela had finally found some peace.